I just watched the new Uncharted movie and wrapped up Cuphead on Netflix. And it got me to thinking. Video game movies. Usually shit, right? I'm looking at you, Mortal Kombat. But sometimes they can actually be good. I'm looking at you, Mortal Kombat. But then it got me thinking, what makes a good video game movie? And what video games do I think would make great movies? It's the top 10 video games that would make great movies. Right off the bat, I'm going to say some criteria. I went more off story than world building. Also, I looked more at concise single stories that were interesting rather than big, long epics. These two things help me decide whether the game should be a movie or if it's more suited for a TV show. So you may notice there are a few notable absences from the list. But who knows, dude? Maybe they'll show up in my video games to TV list. As always, I have to have played the game, and one final thing, we are excluding movies that are already confirmed or in development. But let's get this show on the road with some honorable mentions. Here's a game where it was better to watch and experience than actually play the fucker. Sounds like a movie to me. Hellblade had an okay story, but honestly, its appeal was really the sound design and performance of Melina Juergens. God, I hope that's right. They really brought mental illness to life. But I already have that movie. It's called Joker. Sorry, Hellblade. I needed more. Little Nightmares is a great indie horror game. It has an unsettling, nerve-wracking Tim Burton feel that I just adore. So much so, I damn near put it on the list for the aesthetic style alone. I was this close and could probably even be convinced otherwise. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough story to go with, and I want to, but I just can't. I can't. I won't. Now here's one I'm sure could draw some fire. After all, we have Sonic and soon Mario. Stands to reason Zelda is not far behind. So this point may be moo. Ha! Kaz's opinion. Anyways, I don't think they should. 2 reasons. 1, the story of Zelda is not particularly strong. Each game has its own story that doesn't really gel or mesh well with the overall story of Zelda. Not to mention it's fucking dumb. And reason number 2, I'm almost positive they'd fuck it up. The only thing they could nail is possibly nostalgia. So, that's it. No list for you. I almost cut this one from the list, but in the end, I think the premise of aliens invading Earth as a comedy is something I'd watch. Kind of like Mars Attacks, except that movie sucks ass. Sorry, Dad, it's true. The cinematic spectacle of blowing up cities is there, fun alien weapons, and quirky comedy. It feels like the perfect Mel Brooks type movie, and I can go for that. With all the superhero movies out there, I actually think Infamous might be a nice breath of fresh air. We could watch Cole learn about his powers and watch him struggle with being the good guy or the villain. On top of that, there was a solid story to go along with awesome electrical powers. Just make sure you fix that fucktard Zeke and you got yourself a movie. A dark horse. I don't know how many people actually played these 2 games, but they weren't bad. And the idea of a mobster prince who gets Venom-like powers was just too good to pass up. It would be like John Wick meets Venom. Sounds pretty fucking sweet. It could be a great anti-hero movie with some good choice casting and performances. There will have to be some adjustments made because I don't want another Venom. Fuck, I don't want the one I have. There aren't too many space horror films, especially today. So I think the Necromorphs of Dead Space could be something special. I'm just thinking about the first time a Necromorph gets back up after being shot because you have to decapitate them. I'm going to cake my pants all over again. It doesn't have to be a great story. It can focus on atmosphere, exactly like the game. It could be the alien for the new age. I'd even keep Isaac a silent protagonist and focus on camera work, unsettling moments, old and new world special effects, and atmosphere. Do that and nobody can argue with Dead Space.
We made it to the bridge. It's a nightmare up here.
I'm gonna be honest. This one makes the list off of premise and aesthetic alone. Alice goes to an insane asylum after killing her parents accidentally in a fire, and that's how she gets to Wonderland. But it's a much darker version of Wonderland. It could make for such a nice subversion of the tale everyone knows and loves. And I am such a slut for anything Alice in Wonderland. This movie has cult classic written all over it. Another oldie, but a goodie. And this vampire revenge epic is carried by its story. I don't have time to go through the whole story, but it really was fantastic. It took many games to wrap it up, so it may take 3 movies to properly do it. But that's okay. There are 2 very compelling main characters with Kain and Raziel. You'll have Soul Reaver and vampire powers to play with. Throw in some Witcher-like swordplay combat. I think you got yourself a movie. It'll feel something like Medieval Vampires meets Lord of the Rings. That's a good fucking movie. Now that Disney sucks so much ass lately, I'm going through animated withdrawals. However, Ori could fill these holes in my heart. The games were masterful at telling heartfelt, meaningful stories with little to no dialogue. I would love to see that on the big screen. Ori is lovable while being endearing, combined with an awesome cast of characters, including the most tragic and sympathetic villains I think I've ever seen. I'm already crying. The movie would have a very Wall-E feel. One of the most underrated Pixars, by the way. Speaking of which, I'd love to see Pixar get a hold of this franchise. I'll be crying like a bitch. This one has to be done, and soon. These fuckers are about to die. It wouldn't be anything new in the mob movie genre, but it would fit in great. It's a great crime story, honestly. And when I think about the inevitable director of Martin Scorsese, ooh, I just get goosebumpies. I also have selfish motivations, because I believe this movie would be a great way to segue to a new generation of mob actors. The games have a ton of old-school mob bosses, along with some new and up-and-comers. It sounds like a great way for De Niro, Pesci, Pacino, and Keitel to pass the torch. Because let's face it, these guys are gonna die soon.
Think I'm running some kind of fucking charity here? So sorry, mein Führer.
I love alternative history, and an alternate outcome to World War II where Nazis won is beyond fascinating to think about, if not terrifying. The world building alone in this series is fantastic, but the events of the first 2 games are shocking to say the least. Shit you will remember for the rest of your life. This would allow for some fantastic, memorable performances. I'm not done. There is a ton of spectacle and violence to go along with all of this. Everything would just be awesome. But we may have to wait for the 3rd game to get this done, however, because I need to see where the story goes. Mecha Hitler. It just had to be. This game was made to be a movie, and I am astonished that this shit still has not happened. Whenever anyone thinks of Kratos and his exploits, we talk about the mere spectacle, along with the gruesome action. The whole game is just full of moments of, holy shit, I cannot believe that just happened. Skyscraper enemies that will make your jaw drop. Ripping fuckers in half. Not to mention an underrated story with more heart than you'd think. And with the advancements of CG tech, the whole thing can be brought to life. I honestly have no idea what the fuck they're waiting for. Ask me to marry you. How's my list? Do you think I missed any? I'm actually curious as to what other games people may think would make a great movie. Let me know, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.